on our agenda, a few things about this meeting. We've tried a little different format today, so hopefully we can take a microphone to you and ask you to, instead of coming up. We're trying to get everybody's comments and everybody's questions on the recording of the community coffee so that we can retain that information. So we are filming and we are recording, and Amanda will be coming around with a microphone. So if you would, before you start your question, just wait for her to get to you and we can get that all recorded. Thank you. Just a couple of announcements real quick. On December 16th, 3 o'clock, the Town of Hilton Head Planning Commission is reviewing USCB, the campus site. That is the date that they have on their agenda, so just want to make that announcement. We'll also post this on the website so you have that information, and send out a reminder email the week before the meeting so everybody has that date and time in your record. So be looking for that, those of you that are interested in the USCB campus discussion. Our assessments have been mailed out. They are due upon receipt. We, will send out some reminders on those, probably coming up in early January. But you should be receiving those if you have not already. Quick announcement on the trolley. The board of directors has approved a recommendation from the gate entry committee to not do the Sea Pines Drive and Greenwood Drive trolley stop at this time. They've put it back. There's no intention at this time of going forward with that, but can't preclude future boards from certainly considering it in the future. But just for everybody's information, it is off the table at this point. In addition to that, they did approve moving a trolley kiosk, the actual structure, down to the South Beach trolley stop that's in existence. And we will be putting together a site plan for that, as well as additional information. We'll be posting it on the website and also sending out emails so you can come and look at that site plan and what that's going to look like, at least from a visual presentation on the website as soon as we get that site plan back from the engineer. And then additionally to that, they've asked the board of directors has asked the gate entry committee to reconsider the trolley stop at Lawton Stables. So that is going back to gate entry, and we're trying to get the gate entry committee together to make an additional recommendation on whether that should go forward or not. If it does go forward, the consideration would be to put the pad in there, and we do have funding approved for that pad if that recommendation is to go forward with that stop. So all of those considerations are being made, and just an update for everybody in the room. Okay, well, let's go back to that. Haven't quite got through the agenda. Okay, guest speakers. We have today Chief Brad Tadlock from the Hilton Head Island Fire Department. I think you'll find him very informative and engaging. Brad's a great guy and is fairly new in his role, but has been around for a long time, haven't you, Brad? And then from Hargray, Frankie Denmark and Nicole Gardner are going to talk about Low Country Broadband Project for Sea Pines. They've got a lot of information to share and also a lot of resources for you to go and find out more about this information. And they'll be making additional announcements through Hargray and through us as we go forward with this new plan and new really development that's going to really add a lot of new technology to the community. Then we've got Bo Barnett coming up. He's going to talk about the Fraser Circle project, which is also approved for next year, and then additional 2016 upcoming projects for review. What we have an approved budget by the board and a lot of projects on that, so we're going to start that communication as we go through, and you'll see more of these projects as we go through the year. And then Toby, of course, will come up and talk about the County Sheriff's Office Nixle project and give you details about that. And then George Evans will be here for a happy retirement and a great send-off. So we really look forward to that. Okay, and then we'll have questions and comments at the end. Some holiday office hours. We will close 2:30 on December 23rd. We're closed December 24th and 25th for the month of December. And of course, we're also closed on New Year's Day. And what day is New Year's Eve? Is that a Thursday? So any hours? Oh, there we go. Okay. Got to look at the board. Closing at 2:30 December 31st and close January 1st. Upcoming event reminders, election ballots are due by December 8th. We need to receive those by December 8th, and you can drop those by or mail them in. We did mail out about 60 additional ballots for folks who have returned the original ballot, but not the actual ballot that we sent out subsequent to that. So the wrong ballot they returned, they have not returned the actual one. We've sent out additional ones with a letter, and then we'll be following up with emails and phone calls on those folks to get all of those in. Holiday party at Tower Beach is December 15th from 3 to 6. It's really a kind of a meet and greet and open session for all property owners to meet staff as well as other people in the community, operators, and folks from our commercial side. Retirement party for Frank Nettles will be January 13th from 5 to 6:30. That'll be at the Sea Pines Country Club. ASPO board meeting is January 21 at 9 a.m. CSA board meeting is January 26 at 3 p.m. And our next community coffee meeting is February 3rd at 9 a.m. So we will not be having a community coffee in the month of January. However, we are looking at trying to schedule a communications meeting, which is going to be a review of the survey results that we had out. And we are waiting on our survey folks to help us set that date so that we can get back out. So you will be seeing an announcement of a date for January, more than likely, January, for that survey review. Okay, with that, I'm going to introduce Chief Brad Tadlock from the Hilton Head Island Fire Department. Chief.
Thank you. Can this come down? Sure. Can I move around?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for having me. I know you have a lot on your agenda, so I will move through quickly. One of my goals today is to just give you a broad overview of the fire department that serves your community and the town of Hilton Head. So I'm going to move through fairly quickly, but I have an annual report. This is from 2014. We're obviously going to produce a new one in February, and I'm going to leave some on the table, so help yourself to these. This is an in-depth review of our department, an overview of our accomplishments, and it gives a good history and good overview of everything that the town fire and rescue does for you. So if I tried to go through this today, we'd be here, and I could talk about it all day. We'd be here a long time. So I want to keep moving and try to give you some information. Can I see a show of hands of anyone that's lived here 25 years or more? Full time? 15 years or more? 5 years? Okay, so my goal is to give you a little history of what fire and rescue does, the emergency services, and how we serve you and the rest of the community. So before we start, though, this is the Christmas season. Happy holidays, and I hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. I do want to point out the Christmas lights are up at Fire Station 3 in the center of the island, so we've kind of been overshadowed the last year or so since the Shelter Cove Town Center has taken over the Dove Street experience, and they have a bigger advertising budget than we do. But they are up, and they will be enhanced a little bit as we go into December. So we appreciate everybody. We do a traffic count up there, and we appreciate everyone supporting us in that initiative. So, our mission and vision and culture, I think, core values is very important for emergency service organization. We provide a service just like the hospitality industry and anybody who provides goods and services to the public. And just because we're unique in emergency services, we can't lose that aspect of service. And I'm talking about the service of compassion, the service in how we treat people. Yeah, we're unique. We're your one-stop shop when you have a problem. But we have to focus on how we treat the customer, how we serve. And that has been a goal of the town for many years. And I thoroughly produce it and enforce it in our department, and I tell you, the members I've seen come up through the ranks. I've been here 28 years. I moved here in 1988, started with the fire department, and I've worked my way through the ranks. I've been very fortunate. And people talk about the millennials and the different challenges with the generational gap of people, But we have a great bunch of guys. I'm really proud of the new guys and girls. They really step up and show great compassion, and I'm really proud of how they serve. So I want to throw that out to them right now. They are out in the field every day, seeing the people, taking care of the people, and talking to the people, and they make a big impact on our core values and exhibiting those to the public. We are the biggest division of the town. Fire Rescue has a total of 145 personnel. 108 of those are the line personnel you see on the fire trucks and on the ambulances. The rest are the support staff and the administrative staff, my assistant chiefs, and other persons. But we are the biggest division of the town, and therefore the biggest part of the budget of the town. As I mentioned, the staffing, we have 7 fire stations. I'll show those in a minute. We run the E911 center, the dispatch center for the town of Hilton Head Island. We've done that for over 30 years now. You can see the breakdown there of the personnel. I count the E911 dispatchers as first responders. They're 24 hours a day. They work 12-hour shifts, year round. So they're part of our first responders. So when you look at 145, actually 120 are first responders is how I like to approach it. We also have an emergency management coordinator, Tom Dunn. He'd be a great speaker to come down if he hasn't been here yet. The town has upped their role in that, so that we can basically look out for ourselves in emergency management. We also have the fire inspectors, and I know you were gracious enough to send me some questions in early. I appreciate that, so we'll get to some of those. We also run the maintenance shop for the town, all the town vehicles, which Fire Rescue there again has the most. But we do have a maintenance shop with maintenance techs, and we service all the town vehicles up at our headquarters station by the county recycling center. And of course, at the bottom, IT, the technology aspect, like any private business or government, has required us to keep up with the times to have more technology people. So that adds to our staffing now. There's our fire station locations. Most of you are probably familiar with them. Starting with Sea Pines down here right across the street, and then working our way up to Shipyard, Palmetto Dunes, the Christmas Light Station, Mid-Island, Hilton Head Plantation, back gate of Hilton Head Plantation, and the Cross Island toll booth. There they are. We also have our headquarters building, as I mentioned, up by the County Recycling Center, which next door to that is the training center. When we opened the training center 5 years ago, when you dropped off at this recycling center, you could see it pretty good out there. But now the bushes, as Hilton Head does, the bushes have grown up, and you can't hardly tell we're over there training, but the crews are out there quite often. And I will give a compliment to the past administrations, past leaders of the town. They have supported us very well to update all of our fire stations. Most of them were built, of course, Sea Pines. This station underwent a remodel in 2002, but it was built in the 70s. The Shipyard station initially was built in the 70s and added on to. The North End stations were built in the 80s, and they had outlived their lifespan. We were putting a lot of money into the upkeep on the stations. They weren't built to code related to any hurricane or wind strength. So several years ago, Chief Hillstead started an initiative to replace the fire stations and replace the infrastructure so that if we ever do have a storm, we would have some emergency services capability when we came back. And through everything over the last 15 years, we've been able to keep this program going. And here we are now talking about Fire Station 2 as our last rebuild and replacement, actually. So I think I'll go ahead and take a minute on that since we're at that. Where we're at on Fire Station 2 is we've got an architect hired, and we've got preliminary drawings done and design work done, which was the budget allowed by the town council. The goal would be to go out to bid in 2016 after July, and then at some point later that fall, winter, we would remove that building and begin replacement. So what that means, our last project, Fire Station 6 up at Palmetto Dunes, we were able to stay in the old facility, and I don't know if you've been by there, but they've got their new security office and management office out front. Looks very good. The fire station was moved back to town property across from the maintenance. Obviously, we were able to stay in that building while we built the new fire station. That's not going to happen here. There's not room on that lot. So we've met with Sea Pines, we've met with CSA, and At this point, we are talking to the Marriott about the tennis courts at the other end of this property by the old bank. What we need is a place for a temporary facility. We have to be able to put some sort of modular home, and when I say that, I would look to the Heritage, and you look at some of the buildings they use temporarily. It would be something like that. It has to accommodate 4 persons 24 hours a day, year-round. So we've also talked to CSA about some open space. We have some power line issues. The conversation has started with the Marriott. They've got to be willing to give that property up for roughly 2 years. They seem open to that. I've had my initial conversation with them. So we'll see where that goes. But at this point, that would be a good location, number one, because it doesn't disturb anything. We could go in and put a building on those tennis courts rather easily. I think it'd be more cost effective for the town, and it give us our service level we need by basically operating from the same area as the existing fire station. So if that occurs, the timeline would roughly be, and I see Mr. Lennox in the back, town councils, I always have to say this, has to approve the money for the fire station. It's not approved yet. They approved design money, but the actual budget to approve the fire station would come up during next year's budget talks, this spring actually. As Brett said, it will be here before we know it. So at this point, we're looking at options to keep the temporary station in this location so we maintain our service level. And for many of you may not recall, but we had to do a temporary fire station at Caligny Plaza up across the street, and we had to build a temporary shed with doors to put the fire apparatus in. We've decided it would be more cost effective to basically leave the equipment outside. We trust Toby Security down here to look out after our equipment, and that we would park the equipment outside, have a home, modular home for the firefighters, and then if we needed to, we could repaint the equipment after a year, than to try to construct a temporary facility that would have a lot of challenges with it. So we think we've got a good plan. It's kind of just finalizing the location of where we can provide service while we do the rebuild. And I do have some drawings here. I apologize, I didn't get the conceptual drawing done. But if we just want to pass one of these down each row, that's kind of a conceptual drawing. You can look at that while I talk, of the outside of the fire station. It's roughly the same size as the fire station at Mid-Island up by the church, about 8,000 square feet, as opposed to the fire station at Palmetto Dunes, if you've seen it, that's more of a 12,000 plus square foot. So we're keeping it within the context of the land and the community, and it looks, I believe it looks really good. So we'll pass that around. Is there any questions on that before I leave that topic, since this is your neighborhood? None? All right. So what we do, we are emergency services for Hilton Head. What that means is we are also, people associate that to the fire department, we are also the EMS agency. We are your transport paramedic ambulances. You read recently in the paper about response times. Beaufort County EMS, a county agency, provides EMS to the rest of the county. The town took over EMS in 1993 when they merged the Sea Pines Forest Beach Fire Department and the Hilton Head Island Fire District from the north end, and took over the government service of providing fire protection and EMS protection. So we're full service EMS. That is, we're going to push, the data's in the report, but we're going to push 7,000 calls this year. And of that 7,000, 5,000 will be EMS related. So many people in the modern fire service say we're an EMS agency that provides fire protection as opposed to a fire department that provides EMS. We cross-staff all our rigs, meaning the 4 people over here at Sea Pines today, at least one of them is a paramedic that is responsible for patient care on that ambulance, and we split that crew if we need to. We try to be efficient with our manpower and our ability to respond. So we split that crew 2 and 2, and if there's an EMS call, the ambulance will go on the EMS call, thereby leaving 2 persons on that fire truck to continue emergency response to this area. The question's always asked, is 2 people on a fire truck enough? Most fire chiefs will tell you no. but you have to look at your risk in your community. You have to look at your call volume. You have to look at your travel time. You have to look at your budget. There's a lot of factors. And this model was implemented 15, 20 years ago now. I was at the Shipyard Fire Station as a captain when we implemented it. And there are obviously some challenges with it, but the model, based on our statistics, works very well. There are times that any organization is not going to have enough firefighters or cops on duty to provide service when there's a major event or several events overwhelming the island. But in general, when you look at risk in the community and you set up your staffing and your equipment models, you do that based on the stats you have to evaluate your service. And overall, our service is very good. Do we get strapped in the summertime when we're busy here? And we several times have all 7 ambulances on the road running a call, transporting patients. We certainly do. But we still are able to provide a minimum level of fire protection, and our community risk shows that our fire level here is generally low. Now, I say that, Thanksgiving night, we had a fatality at 2 a.m. So that's not to say the risk isn't there. It's always there, and there was no issue with our response time to that fire or anything like that. I'm not saying that. We had a good response time, and the crews did all they could. But there are times when an agency is going to be overwhelmed, and you call for support. That's one of the challenges we have, is we don't have a lot of support. Being an island, I don't have a fire department on 4 sides of me like many cities do in an area that's not surrounded by water. So that makes it a challenge, and that's why we do. Some people have said, and I've heard it many years, that we seem to have a lot of staffing for a community our size. Well, in some aspects we do. We're cross-staffed, as I said, so that's efficient use of resources, your personnel resources. And then we also have limited backup, and we have a challenging road network. We have your private community with 2 ways in and 2 ways out, which is the front gate and the back gate. So when you tie all that together, our staffing model really sets up well. Our station locations I showed you keeps our response times reasonable. Our staffing model, while not putting 2 persons on every ambulance we have and 4 persons on every fire truck, we keep it reasonable, and I think we provide a reasonable level of service. And the general feedback we get from the public is that's true. So that's kind of a snapshot of our staffing model. You would find a lot of people find that confusing, that people think the fire truck has to be the fire truck and the ambulance has to be the ambulance. But we found that cross-staffing, all of our people are cross-staffed, as EMS. So there's a paramedic on every fire truck and every ambulance at every fire station. So that's a brief overview. Outside EMS and fire prevention activities, send to Siemens out in the community a lot. We try to engage all aspects of the community and keep the fire safe message out there, and also keep the EMS aspects on community risk reduction and how to prevent injuries in the home. I hit my leg. So our dispatch center I mentioned, apologize for that. Our dispatch center I mentioned, maintenance facility, specialty teams. Being a community like we are, a barrier island, we do have hazardous materials calls. We have the occasional technical rescue call. And what we've been able to do is to fund 2 competent teams with our personnel and Bluffton Township personnel, using a lot of federal money and state money after 9/11 to set up these teams. So we have 2 very qualified teams. They're qualified to be dispatched anywhere in the state as a regional resource. And we're able to use them locally. And I'm proud to say that most of the equipment and most of the training involved with these 2 teams is funded by outside sources. So it's not our tax dollars paying for that. I mentioned our stats. Last year we were 6450 almost, and like I said, this year, I think with the improved economy, I think we all saw the island was busy this year, and we're going to have about 7,000 calls. The numbers you see there shows the trending over the last 3 years there on the bottom slide. And it was interesting because when the economy went down, our numbers stayed the same. They didn't go down, but they stayed the same. And then as the economy improved, obviously, our numbers started to come up. And I think it's simply put, it's when the island's busy, we're busy. When there's more people out on the bike paths, when there's more construction going on, more accidents happen, and we're busier. That's where we're at mid-year when we did our mid-year update. So and you see the fire-related calls compared to the EMS calls there in red. The fire calls we track are obviously the structure fires, and then the grass fires, commercial building fires. We break it down to see if there's any trending, any area that we feel like we might not be capturing. And then our EMS call types there, ALS is where a paramedic does some sort of advanced procedure on you, IV, cardiac monitoring, something like that. Breaks down, 500 calls, 600 calls, we don't transport anyone, but those still take up time. So the crews, you go out, you respond, you talk to the patient, you treat the patient, they may refuse care, but you still tie up an ambulance for 30, 45 minutes. I put this in just to give you an idea of what we do in what this fire station does in your area. As you can see, I think it averages around 50 calls a month. Last year, we broke them out into fire calls, EMS, and there again, EMS, we have 415 EMS calls out of Station 2 last year, 2014, 10 fire calls. Now, I would say that the fire calls are actually not a possible fire. That was where we got there and there was actually some sort of fire. So 10 in 2014, that's almost one a month that's some sort of fire. Now, sometimes those can be a pot on the stove, an oven fire, dryer fire. It may not be a big fire that you read about in the paper. And I often tell the groups that, the news media, if it's a big fire, they want to talk about it. They don't talk about when the crews get there in a timely manner. They go in, they put a fire out in the kitchen maybe that's damaged the cabinets. There's not a lot of fire loss there. There's not a lot of news coverage there. And a lot of our crews do good work in that area that you never hear about. Keeping the fire to a small size. A couple of accomplishments. We are accredited through the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. And I like to frame this as an outside group of peer professionals coming in and measuring our department against benchmarks set by this professional commission to measure us against those standards and then give us accreditation. So it's an outside peer review team with elements that they evaluate us again. This isn't Brad Tadlock telling you how good we are. This is an outside agency coming in and validating what we do. And this isn't all about emergency response. This is about human resource management, financial management. We've got a staffer here I used to work with in the financial department. We get quality reviews from the fire department aspect when they come in and look at our procurement process, our financial management based on the town staff that runs the finance department. But they look at that for a fire department because some fire departments run their own financial management system. So we get good reviews on everything we do. It's a very challenging process. We're going to start this next month. It'll take us 9 months to get ready for the commission to come in next fall. So, and if any of you are in the medical field, the Joint Commission you hear hospitals talk about, which is very challenging, and I've talked to the hospital here when they're going through that. So it'll be a stressful time, but we think we're going to ramp up and get ready, and I think we'll be fine. They always look for continuous improvement. That's their motto, is we should always be looking at our statistics, looking at what we do, and determining how we can improve. We also, back in 2012, our initiatives working with our medical control physicians, which is Dr. Van Gabi and Dr. Snowman at Hilton Head Hospital. They're ER doctors, but we contract with them to be our med control. We implemented a lot of new procedures in the around 2009, 2010, and we were recognized with some of those, how the outcomes of some of those procedures with the Community Heart Safe Community Award from the International Association of Fire Chiefs. And they looked at our stats and looked at all the programs and initiative we started and offered us this acknowledgement. And it was related specifically to our trend of and save rate of witness cardiac arrest, where at the time we were around 60%. 6 out of 10 people that had a heart attack that was witnessed, meaning someone saw them go down, someone activated 911 immediately, and sometimes they applied an AED. we were reviving to hospital discharge somewhere close to 6 out of 10. I would tell you our numbers are down a little bit. They're closer to 45% this past year, which is still good. You see numbers out there that in many parts of the country it's around 10%. Some of your progressive areas, Seattle, Washington has one of the best known programs out there and is the benchmark. They're still at 50 or 60%. And so we're proud of that number. It's one of those challenges you put out there. Once you have it, you're always challenged to keep it and to try to keep those numbers up. And there's always a lot of challenging factors with that. But to go with that is the AD program the town has. We're putting them in the parks. Security officers have them across the island. And we're working with grocery stores and other places where large groups of people are located at all times to try to promote the AEDs in those locations. Because the quickest, when you have an out-of-hospital cardiac event, the best thing that can happen is, besides notifying 911, is continuous CPR and applying an AED before we get there. That's going to help us tremendously. So that's an honor we're still proud of, but it's one of those honors you constantly have to evaluate how you're doing and keep it on the front burner. This past year, and along the same lines, we were recognized by the American Heart Association for a Silver Award, and this is specifically related to how we care for a patient that has a heart attack, not a cardiac arrest, but a heart attack, where you have the chest pains and you're conscious, but you're obviously having a cardiac event. And what we've been able to do in conjunction with the hospital is to get 90%. We've met the 90% mark of getting people who are acknowledged to have a STEMI, which is STEMI is the worst heart attack. It's a blockage of the vessel in the heart. When we see that in the field, we get them to the STEMI receiving center, which is the Hilton Head Hospital, and they're on that cath table with a stent installed in less than 90 minutes, less than an hour and a half from the time we get the call. So we have some benefits there. Our island is somewhat limited in size, so we have one hospital, we have one EMS, and we know where we're going, but it's a joint effort between us and the hospital. The hospital has internal procedures related to this when somebody walks through the door with a heart attack and complaining of chest pains that is very aggressive. So this was a nice acknowledgement of what we had been doing for several years. This kind of solidified that what we were doing was best practices, and it was nice to be recognized. Smart 911 is a new initiative. We did a press release on this back in September with Beaufort County. It is the File Life. How many people in here know what the File Life is? Okay, good. I left some outside. File Life is a paper version of your medical history and the information we need on a medical call, that you put a little sticker in your window and you put this packet on the refrigerator door. And when we come in and we see that sticker, we know to go to your refrigerator, especially if you live alone or no one's with you, to get your medical history, your personal history, and your medical history. Well, Smart 911 is the new technology version of that. You now go to a secure website that we do not have access to. You put your information in Smart 911, and through the advancements of modern technology that I could not describe, when you dial 911, that information comes to our dispatch screen. It's run through the phone network, and it's run through the cell phone network, so it works on both. And I'm going to leave some information. There's a press release and the information on it I'm going to leave out on the table, so that'll be out there when you leave. But this, like I said, this is the newer version of the File Life. So, and the dispatchers have it, and the dispatchers are able to take that information and put it on the computer screen that the troops see in the front of the ambulance or the front of the fire truck when they're responding to your home. So, finishing up, like I said, we're a busy organization. Besides running 7,000 calls a year, we train continuously. We do public ed. The troops are out in the field all the time. We're looking at any opportunity we can to serve the community and get involved. And I know the crews, I think, were up at the lighting last night at Shelter Cove. So they're always out and about. And in addition to that, they're running emergency calls. But I think it's important to be active in the community. You need to see us. You need to see me. You need to see the troops. We're a partnership here. We're here to serve you, and we need to be a part of the overall community and the move forward the community is always striving for. So we take pride in serving you. And I do want to mention, as I finish up, we do have a new Facebook page, and it started a few months ago. The fire rescue side is putting a lot of information on it. The town is putting information, so I encourage you to, if you're on Facebook, to set it up and look at it occasionally to keep up on the news with the town. And I just want to thank, I say it publicly every chance I get. I won't, just because Mr. Lennox is here, I say it, I appreciate the support town council gives us. They've given us, like I said, I've been here 28 years, and we've always had good support from the town elected leaders, town management, and most of all, the community. The community supports us through our service, and that cannot be estimated on what impact that has on the troops when they see positive comments coming from the community about their service. It goes hand in hand. So with that, I know you got a lot to cover, and I've talked too long probably already. I do have a couple questions that I'll go over. Does anybody have any questions before I get into these? I have some on the smoke detector the fire code enforcement. So the first question I had was, what are the fire code requirements for residential rental properties? Now, is that a home or a multifamily? I looked at it two different ways. If for a residential rental property, a single family home, meaning a rental home, the only requirement by the fire code is that it has working smoke detectors. That's the only thing we can enforce. The general rule on smoke detectors is that you should have one in every sleeping area, one outside in the general area near the sleeping areas, and one on the first floor level. Let's say if you have a home with all your bedrooms upstairs, then even the kitchen, dining room areas downstairs, you would want to have a smoke detector somewhere downstairs. Typically people don't put them in the kitchen because of the false activation. So on residential rental properties, on single family homes, it's the owner or the property management company's responsibility to make sure there's a working smoke detector in there. We will come out. We do courtesy home inspections. If someone wants us to come out and look at their home or test their smoke detector, we'll gladly come out. But we have no enforcement in your private home or even in a private rental home. So how are these enforced by the town? Well, I would tell you the residential buildings as they're built are enforced by the town officials, the building officials through the town related to new construction or remodels. The town officials apply the code and electrical code, HVAC code. Those are all enforced by the town code. Does the town conduct any inspections of residential rental properties within Sea Pines? And the answer to that is yes, we do. I think I try to Swallowtail next door is townhomes primarily. No common hallways. We would not inspect Swallowtail. There's nothing there for us to inspect. The crews would inspect the fire hydrants once a year out in front of the buildings. But a multifamily complex that has exit lights, that has fire extinguishers, I'm drawing a blank down here right now, like a Marriott property, we would inspect those. We would inspect the general, let me put it in this perspective, we would inspect the common areas. We can't, even if it's a residential apartment building, we can't go into the individual apartments. We would inspect the general areas, the stairwells, look at the exit signs, look at the fire extinguishers if they're posted, but we cannot go in individual private units. Your home is your castle is the way I remember it. And what we do look at on some of those, we do look at sprinkler systems, alarm systems, things like that. If it has a built-in fire sprinkler system or alarm system, the owner of that property is required to show documentation that is inspected annually by a certified company that's approved to do that. We don't do it as the fire department. And then the follow-up question to that, I think I answered it. Do we inspect commercial rental properties? The Inn at Harbortown, South Beach. There again, we do inspect those properties. The Inn at Harbortown, we would inspect South Beach Marina and the apartments above it, we would inspect those. So does that answer the questions? Yes.
Mike.
Thank you. Just one quick thing. Coming from the sheriff's office, I got to tell you, we have a great working relationship. The town of Hilton Head, the residents of Sea Pines, we're very fortunate to have someone like Brad running our fire and rescue. And Brad, I really appreciate all the support that you give us here in Sea Pines. Well, you touch on the importance of the parking. We had an issue where we had someone had fallen and was injured, and a fire truck and ambulance trying to get access via the roadway to get to the patient. And the importance of keeping the roadsides clear inside the plantation is something that I encourage all the time. We've got some small streets in here, especially when you get down to the T streets. Would you feel free to touch on that?
Absolutely. I know I've heard through the grapevine parking's an issue in Sea Pines, as it is in a lot of places. But yeah, we do have a challenge. As I mentioned in our response model, if this ambulance is gone to the hospital transporting a patient and another call goes out in this area, Sea Pines area, that fire truck will go to get our qualified staff to a patient as quickly as possible. And another ambulance from further away will come. Well, that means there are a lot of fire trucks respond to medical calls. And as Toby said, the access we have, as the island's developed over the years, the codes have come in and we have some better access in newer communities, but there are a lot of tight roads, a lot of tight turning radiuses, a lot of parking challenges. So it is very important to keep the fire lanes clear, which is a real pet peeve of mine every time I go to Kroger up there. But to keep those areas clear, and I've had people tell me, well, what's the chances of a fire going out while I'm parked in the fire lane? Well, number one, it messes up the traffic flow, which people that park in the wrong spots, it irritates me because it messes up everybody else's flow of travel. And number two is it's more likely we're going to get an EMS call in that area than a fire call. And we do need access. So, and I don't know, were you talking about at Harbor Town? Which one was this?
We actually had a party that was taking place and they parked on both sides of the road. They could not get the ambulance down the road, so they had to actually run the stretcher down the road, load the patient, and come back. So it's very important that when we have, especially with the holiday season coming up, that we really monitor our parking. If you're going somewhere, there's a lot of places on the shoulder road that you just cannot park. Speaking of this very incident that we had here.
Yeah, the rule now is the 20-foot rule through the new code, and but obviously there's challenges with a lot of areas in the island. I mean, when you drive through, and I'll use Shelter Cove Town Center, there's plenty of room there. It's very well designed, plenty of access for the people and plenty of access for us, but you start putting people in the wrong spot up there, and it can be challenging. And certainly the older area of the islands, like you said, we do have narrow streets. We often have tree limbs that are out that our apparatus have to be careful of, or will tear up the side of the truck because of the angle of the tree across the road. So there's a lot of challenges there, and we certainly we like the aesthetics of the island too, and we don't want to get into war with the trees. But there are, if the road's clear, we can usually navigate it, but it is challenging when the parking comes up. Is there any questions? I know you have other things to talk about, but okay, I'm going to leave the annual reports out on the table. There's some other stuff out there. Help yourself. I'm going to hang around a little bit. I do have another meeting, but I'll hang around if anybody's got any questions. And I really appreciate your time, and I wish everyone a happy holiday and Merry Christmas. And thank you. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Chief. Okay. Thanks, Chief, again, for coming out and giving us all that information. That's terrific. With that, we have a couple representatives from Hargray to talk about Low Country Broadband. Nicole and Frankie.
Just a little bit shorter than you, Brett. So good morning. My name's Nicole Gardner, and I'm the program manager for the Low Country Broadband Plan at Hargray. And today we'd like to share with you some updates, some information about the plan, and some of the progress that we've made thus far. Just a quick agenda. You can refer back to this because this presentation will be available on your website. As many of you know, we are your local telecommunications provider. And on June 15th, this past summer, in collaboration with some of our local leaders and business folks, we announced the Low Country Broadband Plan. And basically, the three main goals of this plan are to provide gigabit internet services to residential customers where there's demonstrated demand, to provide gigabit internet services to businesses who are willing to purchase the services, and then also to provide gigabit Wi-Fi services in public areas, including where there's beach access. So since this announcement, we've been working on Hilton Head Island to achieve these goals. And with me here today is Frankie Denmark, who is our Director of Community Relations, and he will be working directly with Sea-Pines CSA as the liaison between the CSA and the program management team back here at Hargray. Frankie? This one. Yeah.
Thank you very much for having me, and I know some of the people in the room. I've not been here that long. I think I come here in 1979. So I've got to see Sea-Pines along with the other communities really grow. So I've got the opportunity to be part of the growth. This year will be 36 years that I have been with the company. I'm very proud to say that I am with Hargray Communications and for the undertaking that we are doing today, not only in Sea-Pines, but also in the other areas of Hilton Head to build gigabit internet for everyone and not asking for any funds whatsoever from the developments. We're taking this all on our dime, and Sea-Pines alone is a little over a $10 million project. So saying that, what I want to do is take just a little bit of time about the benefits of fiber, and I know a lot of you are more interested in what we're going to do to your yard and how we're going to fix your yard and what we're going to do that way. So I know that's going to take up the majority of the questions, but very quickly I want to say just a little bit about everything in this world today that has anything to do with telecommunications touches a fiber network somewhere. Now, it can be locally or it can be somewhere in Indiana as you're out on the internet surfing. It's going to touch it. That kind of brought on the fiber to the home technology piece of it. It worked great for transmission. Why won't it work great for locally? So in 2002, Hargray took on their first fiber to the home project in Bluffton, meaning that every home in the Bluffton area today has a fiber to the home connection. All the new builds. So on Hilton Head, traditionally it had all been all copper, and it is something that over the years, this time has come and gone. It's time for us to replace our facilities to meet our needs, not only our needs, but also the needs of the communities. And basically one of the things that I want to say about the fiber, today fiber in your home is as important or is as much as integral part of your property as your countertops. You have people coming from up north that live here, first thing they look for is just as important as the power that comes into your home. And what we're fixing to do is we're fixing to offer that to every house, in every lot, every MD, every multi-dwelling unit, every business in Sea-Pines. And again, you may not take the service, but the service will be sitting at your lot or at your home for you to take going forward. As you can look, I talk a lot, so I'll talk as long as you'll listen, so you may just have to stop me occasionally. But what I've just put up here a little bit of the things about what the fiber does and the benefits of it. To me, as I said earlier, everything touches a fiber network. When we get down to our grandkids, which I happen to have 3 of, and I love all 3 of them very, very dearly. And it's always, Papa, what are we going to do today? How can I make my tablet run? How can I do this? If you look down at one of our last bullet points, whenever they show up today, they'll show up with 8 or 10 of them, and every one of them got devices that I'm not used to, devices that I use that I turn on my TV and watch. They got a little tablet, and they want to say, Papa, I can't see, I can't watch. Our fiber to the home networks are going to help that. It's going to improve the bandwidth that you have. That'll allow that. Statistics shows in 2018 that 18 devices, there'll be as many as 18 devices in every home that require some type of bandwidth. I'd ask you tonight, whenever you go home, just take an inventory of what you've got in your house today that requires bandwidth. I think you will be shocked at how many use it, your iPhone, your pads. And, and again, when I go back to the fiber part of it, what we'll be delivering for a gig service will far meet the demands of everybody in this room, including myself, for many, many years to come. And the last part of it is the fiber to the home and the business. It improves the overall quality of life. I kind of refer to it as the computer technology when it started in the 90s. For those of us that was around during that time that had them, we bought a new computer every 6 months. With fiber, today in our lifetime, that'll be the only medium we'll ever see that I believe it'll take us from here to eternity. That'll meet all the needs. I like to refer to as fiber is like vinyl on a home. Once you put it on it, you never have to go back. Uh-oh. I knew I was going to mess this up. I got to get this thing. I can't stand still. All right. Go back one if you don't mind. This is, again, where I go back to talking about what are we going to do to your yards and when are we going to start and when are we going to be in your neighborhoods. Basically, as you can see as of yesterday, and you can see all the crews right out here along the main road, we started in Sea Pines yesterday. And the good thing about it is Sea Pines is the first area on Hilton Head that we have started with our fiber to the home technology. We've got a couple more that's going to start very quickly behind this one, but Sea Pines can actually say they will be the first. And the upgrades are primary to support the commercial businesses all through this center here today. You have multiple businesses in here that may have other locations with a fiber to the home connection or a fiber to the business connection. You can tie all of those connections together, which is not only beneficial to us as a provider, but it's very beneficial to you as a property owner or a business owner to have all of your connections in one spot instead of having 4 or 5 different ones that you have to go and visit. For the MDUs, one of the biggest things that we run into and the challenges in those are the multi-dwelling units or condos, is most of them are rental properties. So when the folks come down to rent these properties, a lot of them are coming from the Northeast and they're very used to Verizon Fios, meaning that they have a fiber to the home connection. When they get here, I go back to what I said about my grandkids earlier. Papa, I can't get on. Well, this is going to allow all of our MDUs to have that connection. We're going to build it to everyone. And again, today, we're going to build fiber to every home and every lot in Sea Pines, which was the third bullet point there. Now, as you can see, and I know this map to my right is very, very small, so I'll ask Nicole to kind of help me with this. This is kind of the way we're going to progress through Sea Pines today. We're going to be in Area 3, and this is going to be this area back down towards Harbor Town. We'll leave these maps up so we can see, and you can see the timelines. We started yesterday, and we expect to be complete by January the 30th. Now, keep in mind, guys, they could be weather days, there could be other things that may change this some, but we all have to have a plan, and you have to work plan, and that's our plan to have it done. Now, starting December the 9th, you're going to see another group in here, and they're going to start in Area 5, which is just kind of a continuation on down this way from where we're at. So the south end is going to get a very large portion of them. Now, you're not going to see one crew. You're not going to see 2 crews. You're not going to see 3 crews. You're going to see upwards to 9 and 10 crews, 12 crews eventually, because our main goal is to be through by the Heritage. Now, that is a very lofty goal, When I say through, that'll be the mainline constructions. That won't be the services up to your houses. That'll just be the mainline construction as we go in through. Because we can come back as we need to and plow our services into your house as we go. But if we're off the main roads, what we're doing for the folks is they're preparing for the Heritage, as Toby and them's preparing for all of their traffic plans. Our goal is to be out and complete by the Heritage time, and then we can put our drops in. Kind of put the other areas, and they're all on this map behind me, to kind of give you some dates. If you want to, we'll leave this map up, and you can come by and look at the area where you may be in, and you can see to when we may be coming into your area. Next slide. This is where I need your help. There's a lot of stuff that we locate by doing the one call. That's your utility lines, your water lines, and all of those is taken care of. But for those that may have invisible dog fence, only you know where that's at. For the irrigation lines, you can probably be very helpful with that. I'm going to look at every one of you, and I'm going to tell you, we're going to break stuff. I mean, it's going to happen. We're going to repair it as we go through it. But any help that you could give us with that to kind of say, hey, it's right here, that would be very much appreciated. One of my biggest fears is propane tanks. Anybody have a buried propane tank in this room? See there? Those are the guys we worry about. When we hit them, they go boom, boom. We really have a problem. So those are paramount, that if you see us coming close to your area, that you say, hey, here is my buried propane tank. I mean, that's not like cutting a cable TV or cutting a sprinkler line. Other things are going to probably happen. So very much I ask you, if you see us in your area and you have a buried propane tank, by all means, be sure you step out and get one of our guys and kind of go over that. We've actually put up a dedicated construction line, as you can see it right there, that you can call in. Next slide. Now, that was for general stuff like mud in the road. You cut my dog fence. You've done this. That number is for that. If you have an emergency, like what we talked about, the propane or the power or a leaking water line, these are direct numbers. Clint Roberts, who is our project manager over all of it, the construction part, there's his personal cell phone, and then there's John Strickland, his personal phone too, that you can reach out to. I kind of ask that you use these guys sparingly, but I mean, if you don't get no satisfaction and you sit on hold, I mean, I'll be more than glad to leave you my card and my number to call to. We kind of got a process that we're wanting to work with, because all of these are what we refer to as vanity numbers. Then we can track, you know, how many calls we have for this, this, and this. So it only makes us better in the next stages that we go into. But again, any emergency factors, you know, 911 is always an avenue too, but those are the guys that can be super helpful for you. Now, you'll also see the construction number there again, and then at the very bottom, for general information about our services, if you want to call, you can call this. It goes all about Low Country Broadband. There's a number for that too. I'll take any questions. Oh my goodness, am I getting off way too easy this time?
When will we expect service? One moment. Sorry. I want to make sure you heard very well. Welcome.
So I understand that with the schedule for the lines coming to the home, when will we expect service in the homes?
What area are you in? Do you know? Did you see the backslide?
I'm in 1 or 2, I think. Greenwood Forest.
Amanda,
Yes, sir.
back me up one, please.
do that.
Back me up to the schedule. Yeah, just back me up to the schedule. And you're in 1 or 2. So if you can see in area 1, you're going to be way down the list. You're in February is before we ever starting it. And it can probably take anywhere from 6 to 8 to 12 weeks. It's just according to how far along down you are. But we will be starting your area. February is expected to start on February the 18th.
If you use Time Warner for your cable, will that still apply?
Yes, sir, it'll still apply. We are not mandating any services by anyone. You're free to choose whatever you want to. I ask you to consider us and let us have an opportunity to serve you.
So this means we don't really have to use the cable anymore. We could just use your fiber.
Yes, ma'am.
Do everything through Hargrave.
Yes, ma'am, and I'll see you later and hug your neck. That's kind of what we're looking for. But to answer your question, all joking aside, yes, we can do that.
That would be great. And we're in Harbortown, so we'll be the first people.
So what I would suggest that you do is, and this is going to be posted on CSA's website, go to the site that talks about Low Country Broadband or call that number, and they'll be more than glad to help you with any need that you may have.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi.
Yes, ma'am.
I know fiber to the moon is pretty expensive. Are you going to have some kind of promotions or something to keep your rates competitive?
Yes, ma'am, we very much are. And if you go to the last number, I hate to ask Amanda to turn it back. Well, we had the Low Country Broadband. There are some promotions that's going to happen on that right now. I mean, and I'll just speak very briefly of it. I know she's about ready to kick me over here. But we're going to have what we call a Time Warner Switcher program, basically meaning that you show me your bill, I'll do that, and I'll put you on fiber for what you're paying today.
I'd rather have it for less, but you know.
Well, I know less is always better.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand that. Anybody else? Thank y'all very much for your time. I mean, and most of all, thank you for your patience. Because you're all smiling today, but I promise you, you will be calling me one day and saying, hey, you have done this. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Nicole. And we will leave these maps up here so everybody can see it. And again, we'll be posting the contents of the presentation on the website, and also additionally adding a link so you can go directly to the Hargrave website and get more detailed information. Okay. With that, I'd like to introduce Bo Barnett, talk about our 2016 projects and his plan.
Thanks, Brett. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'll take that. So we're running a little short on time, so I don't want to rush through this too fast because obviously there's a lot of important stuff that we've approved to look at for next year. And one of those that I've touched on at Coffee's previously to this one was the Fraser Circle. And we're really looking at this from a safety perspective. We've had an increased amount of accidents at Fraser Circle, as well as almost near misses. For those of you that have been here have heard me talk about this before. Really, let me see if I can figure out this highlighter. So really, what's happening is the larger trucks and vehicles that are coming this area are turning really wide in this radius right here, and they're actually pulling into oncoming traffic. So, we've had some really almost bad near misses, and fortunately for us and the individuals involved, that wasn't the case. These kind of traffic calming elements that are right here are going to be landscaped, with low growing plant material, but that will also help buffer and guide, traffic to where they need to go. With that being said, you can see right here this dark shaded area, that's an increased radius to allow for a bigger turning radius for larger vehicles. You can see we've added a new leisure trail here. This is kind of a notorious crossing point for everyone on bikes. Obviously, we want to make sure that this is far enough away to facilitate, the safety requirements. But obviously, we see a need and a demand for that, so we've went ahead and built that into the design as well. Now, the biggest concept change is taking Fraser Circle from 2 lanes to 1, and when I say that, we're going to have a larger 1 lane. You can see the portion of the outer second lane or second travel lane that is being removed here is cross-hatched. So not in entirety will the entire second lane be removed, just portions of it. So we're still going to have a larger 1 lane, but really this is to make it a safer circle. And I think that's most of the major features for Fraser Circle. We're going to get into some of the MR&R numbers that were approved by the board, and this project is included on there as well. And I can go back to this, or I think we were planning on posting this as well on the CSA website. If anybody has any questions, please after get with me. So moving forward. This is the major repairs and capital costs budgeted for 2016. The roads, leisure trails, facilities, buildings, and beach paths are broken out on more detail on the next slide. So I'm going to kind of graze over those right now. And we're going to get into more detail on those in the next slide. But, I'd like to point out, obviously, the total that was approved, 1.125. A lot of these projects, Fraser Circle, you can see here, $320,000 is what was approved for, making that a safer environment for everybody. Also, what's not on the next slide are the Fraser Circle landscape conceptual design and Sea Pines Circle landscape conceptual design. Since I've been here, I've really wanted to take those 2 areas to another level and make them aesthetically more pleasing for the community. I don't think Fraser Circle needs a lot, but what I would like to do is the undulations and higher topography in the circle detracts the eye from the Fraser oak, which is one of the most prominent trees that we have here in the community, and why not be able to see it? So, it would be a very minimalistic approach to Fraser Circle. Sea Pine Circle, I think, needs a little bit more vegetation removal and a little bit more aesthetic plantings to highlight the flagpole and just the overall appeal of the Sea Pine Circle. The fences at Canvasback was originally a 2015 that's moved to 2016. So that's just been pushed. We're planning on doing that this year. Six Oaks Park Survey and Wetlands Delineation. And we're really trying to gauge what we have available out there to work with and do additional projects and conceptualizations for years to come. Greenwood Drive corridor, we've done some presentations on, really making the gate entrance and experience much more pleasurable for not only our property owners but residents and tourists alike. It's the main thoroughfare, it's the main drag, it's what everybody sees. So we're looking at, getting surveys, getting conceptuals to, look at road topography, look at road paving, look at landscaping, look at beautification, look at it all together, and then present this later at a later date once we're able to gather all of the facts for what that project would cost. Stormwater and drainage. The highlights here would be comprehensive stormwater study. You see that number, it's $200,000. We're in a environment where tidal activity, we've had 3 really high tides here over the last few months. Some of our structures and infrastructure that facilitate our stormwater drainage are reaching their life expectancy. So we're really looking at engaging engineers and hydrologists that do this for a living to tell us and help us plan for the future years to come. And some of these areas are in desperate need. I want to say desperate, but we definitely need to be thinking about getting them repaired and looked at and put into a long-term plan. So that's what that is comprised of. The rest of this here is related to the master drainage at the Ocean Course project. That the only time that we could get in there and do that work is right now while it's under renovation and construction, and that portion is largely with our master drainage. One of the capital costs that I'd like to hit on is, they're not broken out on the next slide. I'm looking at our department, not picking it apart, but really wanting to be able to not only present to the community, but also be able to track what we're doing and when we're doing it. Facility Dude is a program that is nationwide. A lot of large facilities management companies and universities throughout the country utilize this program. It's a web-based program. It allows us to create work orders, track work orders, and then also it lets the residents have an interactive capability feature that allows you to be able to access online and create work orders from the comforts of your homes instead of calling into a CSA admin building. So, there's some features for our property owners as well, but, really it's going to help us track long-term costs and the hours that we're allocating to some of these tasks in the maintenance department. Also with that, we're looking at another key piece of equipment is a hydroseeder that we're going to look at utilizing for not only all of the thoroughfares and main corridor roads, because we all know we live in the forest, so it's hard to get grass to grow in largely shaded areas. So, we're going to focus on aesthetics with the utilization of that hydroseeding machine, and then also looking at using it for the trolley lots, reducing some of that visible glare of the white rock that we can skim coat with soil and top dress and then hydroseed those areas and establish some type of turf grass. Next slide. I have a tendency to do that. So this is the areas broke down that I covered. I just kind of briefly went over. Major replacements and repairs for road paving. We have Planters Woods Drive, Planters Wood Court, Wisteria Lane, and then Clipper Court sidewalk, which is down off of Lighthouse. That's a sidewalk that has a lot of root heaving and concrete breakage that we really needed to look at from a safety standpoint. But that's slated for 2016, as well as you see here we have Lighthouse Road conceptual engineer plans. It's a pretty big ticket item at $56K. We're looking at providing 2 leisure trails down both sides of Lighthouse Road. Right now we have one that jogs. Not sure if we're going to be able to do that from a surveying standpoint, but we're conceptualizing trying to make that a safer environment for our tourists property owners and guests. The other portion that we have on here is kiosk, replacing 9 and adding 3 more, as well as the Beach Pass, which is replacing mile markers 21 and 39. And finally, the facilities. It's painting our maintenance buildings. They're outdated. They're in much need of repair. They've had a lot of bamboo and overgrowth for the last 20 years. We've since removed all of that, and we've realized that there's a big need to replace those and get those up to par. As well as Tower Beach lightning protection. I know David's talked a little bit about it. We had a lightning strike at Tower Beach this summer, and this will go to facilitate keeping all of the guests and property owners safe at Tower Beach. I think those are the big ticket items. Again, I apologize for kind of going through this fast. We're a little short on time today. Obviously, we're gonna dive into this in more depth as we get into the season. If we have any questions afterwards, I'll be more than happy to take those. And I'm here, so if you have any questions, please come up and ask me. With that being said, I think Toby is up next.
Thank you. Can you switch to the slide? While Amanda's putting up the next slide, the Nixle program I've mentioned before, that the sheriff's program, here's where you can actually reach the site to put it on your smartphone. So if there's anything that's going on in the community, whether it's a bad traffic accident, a manhunt, which we have actually had here in Sea Pines, where someone actually have jumped a fence and the SWAT team was running through Club Course chasing a person, that information would be posted out there. So it's a great source for you to go to get information that's happening in the community. One thing I'd like to touch on, a week ago today, we had a maintenance employee right out here on Lighthouse Road that was hit by a vehicle. Thank goodness the individual, Keith Chisholm, was airlifted to Savannah, is at home recovering. And I stress this to the property owners, there is times, and not just CSA employees, now we're going to have hard-grade crews here working. Please, please be vigilant when you're driving through the community to watch out. There is time that maintenance is in the roadway. I know Bo is making some changes to some things that they're doing and how they go about their day. But we ask as you please ride around, especially in the early morning and late evening with the glare, please watch out for these people that are in the roadway. And we're glad that he looks like he's going to have a full recovery. So we're really happy of that. That's kind of all I have as far as the security update. This next presentation that I have is it's kind of bittersweet for me. I've only had the opportunity to work with George the last couple of years. Prior to that, coming into the plantation, George has always been there. And George, won't you come on up here real quick? I know someone asked me earlier, they looked up here and saw something covered up and they thought I was going to present another trolley stop. That's not what this is. But everyone knows George. I didn't know a whole lot about George, so I asked the staff, I said, hey, will you, I jotted some questions down, shot an email, can you get to find out some information about George? Well, George actually writes this back, and I'm reading this. It says that he left Ohio to move south. I take back all that I've said about the people from Ohio, because they obviously sent us their best. But George came here. He was a manager at a compressor manufacturing company before coming here. He's here with his wife, Carolyn. He has a son and a grandson that he's going to spend time with. George has been here middle of December for over 19 years at that Greenwood gate. 19 years sucking up the exhaust, handing out dog biscuits, but for 19 years. So I think it says a lot about someone that one, I think George really cares about the community and the property owners that are in the room and the people that he serves. To stand there for 19 years. I mean, there's blood, sweat, and tears on that pavement out there where he's been. But, George, we're going to miss you here. It's putting a good staff together. When you're at the gate, I don't ever have to worry about what's taking place up there because I think the residents call you the mayor of Sea Pines. But we got a couple things that we wanted to give you here today, just a very small token of our appreciation from the CSA board, the employees, the community, and I actually have something from the Heritage Classic Foundation as well. But we did put something together, and being George and who George is in the true spirit of things, George has worked 17 Heritages wearing the kilt. And now George is the employee who really lives up to that Scottish tradition. Now, when you've seen George over to all the Heritage, George is a free George. And if you get my drift, he's free George. I'm just kidding. We just want to give you something, George, that... You wasn't quite so free in this photograph here, but we appreciate that. Here's a small token from the staff. We appreciate all that you do. We're going to miss you. When we're designing the new gates, we're not going to let you get too far because someone that stood there for 19 years obviously is going to have a lot of input of what we should be doing. But we thank you. From the Heritage Classic Foundation, since you've worked 17 years and never got to attend a Heritage, here's some free tickets to the Heritage this year. I have a decal on my desk for your car. Not that you probably will ever come to Sea Pines when you leave again, but you do have free access to Sea Pine anytime that you want to come back. But I appreciate everyone sticking today, George. We really appreciate all that you do, and we're really going to miss you. Thank you.
Thanks, Toby, and thank you, George. Sue?
The address was different from the. Nick, put the last slide up on the Nixle. Which one is for Nixle? Which one is correct?
It is this one. It is that one. Yes, Nixle. Excuse the. Yes, ma'am. I apologize. So there you go. Use that one. Nixle for you. It's really easy to use. I have it on my phone as well. Yes, sir. I can do that. You see, I'm not even following my own directions. It's very easy to use. You can go to that website and you can download it in just a matter of seconds. So I encourage you guys to use it.
Okay, again, if you would, wait for Amanda to get to you with a microphone. So.
And speak into the microphone when you get it, because I didn't listen to my own directions.
Amanda.
Hi, thank you. Good meeting this morning, Brett. One suggestion in the future, is the agenda for these meetings ever posted on the website before the meeting?
We had some topics. We should be posting all of it. Actually, we were putting together agenda items this morning and adding them to them.
I would strongly suggest that the agenda, even if incomplete, for one of these be posted at least a week in advance so that the non-resident members can know to watch the video replay. And so the members, the residents who are here, can come and prepared with questions or submit questions before the meeting, just as I did relative to fire issues.
Great idea. Thank you.
Secondly, will Bo's budget be on the website? Will the entire CSA budget be on the website?
It is on the website now.
And so all of Bo's breakdown of the projects will be there as well?
The presentation that was made to the board of directors that they voted on is what is posted on the website, correct?
Okay. Third thing, I thought we already had a policy that if contractors came in, they notified or had to apply to CSA. So if Palmetto's coming in to do some electric work or Hargray to lay cable, do they notify you guys first so that you can notify the neighborhoods where the work's going to occur?
they are under their contract, which they have a franchise easement right contract. They're in every day, and they continue to operate and update. They will, if they're having major work like this, give us that information. There is no specific requirement in that, but we're certainly working with them on a daily basis about these things. We actually got this schedule, I think, last week. So that's as quick as we got it. But they have the right to come in and do these things. Obviously, they've been planning this for a little while, but they just voted to move forward on this quickly. And because of the heritage schedule, we've moved this as rapidly as it has been.
Well, I appreciate that, and I'd suggest that you ask them to be more specific in their notifications so that you could notify the neighborhoods. I had a complaint from a POA president whose water and electric were cut yesterday out here on Lighthouse Road because of the fiber optic project that he did not even know was in the area. So if you double back with the people coming in and say, look, if you're going to do a major project, let you know, and then you can send a blast email to the neighborhood or to the POA presidents in the neighborhood so we can tell people. Should be appreciated. Finally, an editorial comment about parking. We've heard Toby Parker talk about it, heard the fire chief talk about it. The solution is simple. No parking on our streets. It's a bylaw change for CSA. I recommend it strongly. We can talk about it further, but it's a safety issue, and we can solve it ourselves. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Other questions?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
A couple of years ago, I mentioned at this meeting that I would like to address or have the committee or a committee address the use of gas-operated lawn equipment. And I've read a couple of letters in the packet recently that kind of support that. When I brought it up before, it was somewhat dismissed by one of your predecessors, and I'd like to bring that up again. It's really getting to be a problem, particularly in the area where I live, which is a rental area, and it's very unpleasant for us to wake up at 7:15 in the morning to a blower, and not only is it noise pollution, but it's a lot of pollutants that was in that 2020 plan. They said that a blower was probably as loud as a low-flying jet plane and emitted much more pollutants than a car. And so I'd like to see that addressed. Now, if it's not a problem for everybody else, then, I can put earmuffs on or whatever and live with it. But I really think we've got a problem. And if we're going green, I think that's one way that we can certainly do that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we can update, I think, our processes and procedures in our the local ordinances, which really come into play with the noise ordinance, and what our responses can be, and what authorities we do have related to that. So I think Toby can address that in more detail, and we can also work with safety and security. And I don't think right now you want to go into it, Toby, but we'll certainly come back, though. Great. Okay. Others?
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, my name is George Paletta. I'm glad we talked about the safety, and I'm very unfortunate that fellow got hit, etc. But I think we have a problem on our intersections in Sea Pines as well. We need to do a real evaluation of clearing shrubs and trees at the beginning of these intersections. The visibility is not good in a lot of this. So that's one issue that could help with the traffic and accidents. The other situation here is our center lines, etc. I think we have to pay attention to the maintenance of those things and the reflectors. And one of the issues with painting center lines or traffic lines is the usage of paint versus the usage of thermoplastic with beads. It's very reflective, and it's something that should be used now right here. Since this plantation is so dark, that is one help with the traffic. It's very important. So I don't know what you do for maintenance and annual repairs, but we need to look at that. And particularly in areas that they get worn, going out the gate, coming in. And the gate has become an absolute disaster. Yesterday, a guy made 3 turns before he decided he was a visitor. He came into the visitor, came into our lane, went back to the visitor's lane. When I got to the booth, I asked the girl, I said, are we ever going to get rid of this? And she said, oh, that's easy. Yesterday, a guy made a U-turn and went back against the traffic. So now I am going to, for the 100th time, say that we need signs similar to the signs that we were able to put up to caution going into Mr. Riley's bar area. The yellow sign, okay. Now, when the Heritage comes, we do everything possible. Let's do it for our people who live here and every day have to go through this. Our signage is horrible, and you know it. It's too small, it's too dark, and we're dealing with tourism, and we're dealing with out-of-towners. You got to get on this, okay? Making it beautiful doesn't make it safe, and we are not safe. So I beg you again to pay attention to those signs, and if anybody here wants to have some input into it, I think that we should all put input to our manager here and get this done. Signs are terrible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alice Levis, and this is the first meeting we've ever been to because we're here at the meeting time. We're a part-time resident. We vacationed on Sea Pines for about 40 years and owned for about 15, 20 years. And this is our home away from home. We absolutely love everything you do, and this meeting was very impressive. The question we both have is, we walk on the beach constantly and love the best beach in the world. Sea Pines is our beach. And we were just wondering, out of curiosity, what happened to the fire tower?
The fire tower.
The fire tower that was down by the beach gate? Yeah, it used to be
David?
there, and we don't see it anymore. Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. Carrie, David, you guys are...
Oh, was that a Coast Guard tower? I thought it was the fire tower.
I haven't been here that long, so these guys actually have been around.
I'm not real sure, but I've been here a long time. But I think it was put there maybe by the Coast Guard. Bill, you may know. You've been here longer than I have. There you go, JR. He may know.
I'm the Barnacle guy. It was put up by the U.S. Survey Group that was surveying the island back in the 30s and 40s, and so they actually used it as a dual purpose for a fire, but basically it was a survey tower. And that was located at the corner of, on the beach at Canvasback in South Forest Beach. That's where it was. I don't know when it got taken down because you don't go look at those things very often. You think them, take them for granted, and one day you're walking down the beach and it's not there. So I don't know when it was taken down, but that's what it was, a survey tower.
Other questions? Okay, we'll be around, myself, Bo, Toby, after the meeting. Thank you.